Hey y'all, we are back. Just a short little video today as we're getting things squared away here. I just wanted to bring you this. I was telling you yesterday in the other video about the diameter of the rotor having to play with the overall wheelbase. And I'll bring you over and show you what I was talking about again, just so you can get an idea. We extended the wheelbase. Or we're going to. Nothing's welded together yet. But the old, we know that the old bearing hanger sat right at the end of where we cut it right there. And although this bearing hanger is a little narrower, that one's a little wider. We know we're pretty close, measuring from this point back, probably the distance that it's short. So we're about 3 inches back right there. Just, putting things together to look at. We've still got plenty of room between this tube here and the rotor itself. So we can still move it back yet more if we want to. I'm going to bring it over here. And here's the brake caliper for the rear. And you see we got plenty of room. We're gonna, probably put a bracket there, just like the other one was on the other side. But so you see how things are starting to come together. We're already starting to look at where things are going to need to go. Obviously, we don't need all this axle. We're either going to have somebody machine this, or we'll get our hold of our buddy Kim Watsky at Precision Karting Technologies, and he's the axle guy. He'll just make us a custom axle. We'll just let him know what we need. But this is where I was concerned about moving this wheelbase back, having to maybe cut this cross tube loose and move it back, for the whole flexibility deal, and where the engine's going to sit. Obviously, I've never had one of these carts together with these tubes on, but I'm guessing the bodywork is going to be no further in than that. We really don't know what the overall width of the cart is going to be dictated by the front end and where that sits with the front brakes and hubs and all that stuff. But if we're going to be that narrow, we're looking, we got the key slots are in the right place. We've got plenty of room to be able to move this stuff around and get it. So things are coming together. That looks like a bit of a long chain to me from that point, but that's what we were concerned about with moving the wheelbase back and getting the axle further away from this point. We can't change this. It's there. It is what it is. We certainly don't want the engine with this bar in the middle of it, right? We don't, just to get it back further, but if you think about it, you get a 710 on here, you get a tire on here. Let's just for giggles, let's go ahead and we'll just hold it. We ain't got one on a wheel right now, but we go ahead and hold it up there, and lift it up middle. We can come back a little bit more with the engine, if in fact that's where we want, the bearing hangers, but we'll see. I just wanted to show you how these things are starting to come together, and you kind of have to, it's like playing chess. You kind of have to figure 2 or 3 moves ahead before you start welding things together and putting things in stone, and then realizing, oh wow, we really botched things up. So this is the old the RV-XX, the rod's got a little bit of time on it, eh, guys? We got parts and stuff coming to rebuild the RVX. That motor's going back on my car. We got my car in here. This is the spare motor that's going to go on this cart, God willing. We got Jamal's gas tank is out of there. The tank we put in there for Grattan, to run at Grattan. And we've tried putting Dennis's Anderson radiator there to sit it there, and kind of not ideal. But what we've been doing, working on radiator stuff as well, and then I'll cut you off, is counting the tubes, the distance between the tubes, fins per inch, the width of the core itself, not the radiator of the cans, but the width of the core itself. Okay, and you can see the difference between, look at how, you know, you can see the light right through that thing. That's almost like an automotive type radiator, right? 1/2 inch apart with the tubes, big, massive. I think this one has, I think I counted 5 fins per inch. This one, the Creek radiator, a little bit tighter than the Griffin. Still about 1/2 inch apart with the tubes. About 8 fins per inch, complete fin, up and down one fin. This, man, we counted 20 fins per inch. And that density there is about what you see on a CIK sprint cart. Granted, this is 7 by 7 1/4, or 7 1/4 by 7 3/4, and a standard CIK sprint cart radiator is actually exactly double this. 14 by 7 is about standard. What we did is we measured up the one in the front that we already got in there. It's 6 by 7 3/4, and we started figuring square inches of you know, volume, just not taking into consideration how close the tubes are and fins and how thick the cores are. There's a lot to this. There's a lot to figuring this stuff out. All I know is for sure is we had this radiator in. It worked for Scotty Fiesler. Didn't work for me. You know, we put in a radiator that worked for a whole bunch of folks with Pavazi's, and it didn't work for us. So I think what we're going to do is what we intended to do is we were going to make the October test day in 2018, and what we're going to do is probably mount this one back here, and then build an air box, you know, to box it in with a scoop, you know. And we'll get this thing suspended up here. So all we really got to do is plug the hoses into it, you know, and that'll be a good test. It'll give us literally a little bit less than twice of a CIK radiator, and that way we can go from there. Right now, the 6 inch by 7 3/4 is about 46.5 square inches. That radiator, this one here, is about 52. The old Creek radiator is about 54. And then, of course, we start really jumping up here. 15 and 15 3/4 by 6 inches. This ends up being 91.5. Then, of course, the Anderson is huge. It's 17 inches long by 7 inches wide, and it's 119. And that's right in the ballpark. Well, 119. A standard CIK radiator, like I said, is about 7 inches wide and 14 inches high. The core, not the cans, just the cooling core, and that's about 98 square inches. Sometimes you see carts with bigger radiators and stuff, and they're about 8 by 16, which is about 128 square inches. So we're in the ballpark with 119. So we're gonna have to figure out what we want to do and how to go about doing it. Shay's here. She doesn't want to be on the movie, but I'm gonna put her on real quick anyway. There she goes out the door. See, honey? Must be time for dinner. So mother-in-law is gonna take us out to dinner. So figure I'll leave you with a little MIS nostalgia. 1972 Enduro Nationals. Look at that. July 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. 6 days back then. 6 days. Man, you folks think you got to take a lot of time off to go to a 3-day gig. Wow. God bless y'all. We'll bring you some more tomorrow.